What's a social entrepreneur, a social enterprise? A social entrepreneur uses business as their primary tool to change the world. The key term here is change the world. Change the world through business. Make a difference. My name is Jorge Olson. I am a social entrepreneur. How did I start? How did I become a social entrepreneur? Well, it all started when I wanted to be a missionary. I was 14, 15, 16, all the way to 18 years old, and I wanted to go out in the mountains of Mexico and become a missionary and help the indigenous population of Mexico build houses, build schools, get education in, get electricity, running water. I wanted to be a missionary. I wanted to make a difference. When I woke up in the morning, I didn't ask myself, how will I make more money? How will I get a job? I always asked myself as a child and teenager, how can I make a difference? What is my purpose? That changed when I realized we were poor, and I realized I had to work. And then I didn't know anything, but I knew how to work hard. So I did what I knew, work hard. And I got a job because I did not know how to become an entrepreneur. In my household, my mother was a teacher. She finished college when she was older. I was already in junior high when she finished her degree. So I only knew how to work hard. So I took a job and I worked hard. With a lot of luck and a lot of work, I was vice president of international sales for a software company at 27 years old, and I was CEO of U.S. operations by age 28. By 30, I was third software company as an employee, as an executive. And after that, I decided, I had more time, I realized what I was doing now, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I went into business, I started with distribution. I've owned several distribution businesses, and I've owned several beverage businesses as well. I've owned several beverage brands, and I've launched about 1,000 consumer packaged goods products over the last years. A lot of products, that's a lot of projects, and I've done a lot of startups, not just by my own, but with investors, with other entrepreneurs as well, and in collaboration with other people. When I woke up in the morning, I always had a lot of things to do. I always needed to get this to somebody, get samples, produce product, call clients, get on a plane, go to meetings. And one day, I woke up in the morning and I thought, what's my purpose? Yeah, just like the good old days, just when I was a teenager. Next morning, I woke up and I said, what's my purpose? Third night, I woke up and I thought, what's my purpose? Before I got up, every morning, waking up, I thought the same thing. What's my purpose? Is it to be an entrepreneur? Is it to get external validation, money, a car, a house, or several of those? Or did I move into internal validation? I went back, make a difference. In essence, becoming, by the third morning, a social entrepreneur. Since then, I've worked on a lot of projects, and I've worked with a lot of social entrepreneurs, and some that were not, but now are, because I tried to convince them to social entrepreneurs. And this was my journey. And a key piece here is, when you wake up in the morning, do you think, what's my purpose? If you're with me right now, you probably did, maybe not today, maybe not yesterday, but at some point you ask yourself, what's my purpose? Is it just to be an entrepreneur, or do I need to do something else? Now, mind you, I know spirit. You have the drive. You want to build. You want to succeed. You want the validation. Externally, that's money. That means you're winning. But one day, you're going to get into the internal, and you're going to say, what's the purpose? You already have the external. Now, what's the internal validation? What's the purpose? Why am I really doing this? And if you see here to the left, this is us. This to the right is a money tree. To the left, it could be a nonprofit. And here to the right, it could be a business, a corporation, a private company, a public company, a funded company, non-funded company, a beverage company, or whatever you want to the right. So here we could have a cause, we could have a nonprofit. Here to the right, we could have this. This is the vision. This is the vision behind a social entrepreneur, or at least this is how it starts, by looking at different things and trying to put them together, or not separating them. And when you put them together, you get a different type of looking tree. It's not the one we had here before. This is a different one. And this one means quick and permanent change. When you mix those together, when you mix your causes, your purpose in life, the fact that there's something else when you wake up in the morning that you have to do, you mix that with your drive as an entrepreneur, your willingness to work harder, I should say, than anybody else, and achieve and do things that nobody else can do. The old saying says, if you're stuck, call an entrepreneur. They'll fix it. They'll find a way to get it done. This tree symbolizes getting it done. It also symbolizes permanent change that will be there, turning when you're not there. When you leave, that's why it's permanent. It will stay. Social entrepreneurs want to create a better world. But they don't want to do it like everybody else does it. They don't want to do it like a nonprofit. They don't want to do it like a government. They want to do it their own way. They want to do it with business. They want to do it using the economy and growing the economy and giving jobs and maybe even selling products or employing people to make the products they sell. And they want to do it differently because they want permanent change. And in business, you have to have permanent change. Adoption in business, in marketing, means change. You're changing something that is core. It's the same with the social entrepreneur, but the change is deeper. And the change just happens to create a better world, to change the world. Not only to sell a few more products, a few more bottles of water, but to actually create a better world. That's a social entrepreneur. Where do you start? You want to be a social entrepreneur. Where do you start? You need a business. And that can be another hour, but let's just leave it at you need a business. You need to have vision. You need to wake up in the morning and say, my purpose. And you need Star Trek economics, and of course everybody knows that, right? Or maybe not. So Star Trek economics, yes, I'm a geek, I admit it. But wait, what is Star Trek economics? Star Trek economics means that you will change the world, and one day the world will be different. This is why it's Star Trek economics. And in this particular story of Star Trek, the world is already different. So we have an example, we have a goal that we can strive to. That's the goal, to have a world where there's no hunger, there's no need, and everybody on the planet is to be better and make everybody better through science, through art, through education. That's Star Trek economics, and that's the ultimate goal, and that's why you need a business. This is you, by the way. You probably figured it out. And then you need the vision. Now, this is a big vision. You need your own vision, but this is the vision that everybody has, all of us have together. whether you're a geek like me or not. Search for your cause, how to find it. There's a lot of need, but where can you make the biggest difference? But how can you influence? How can you help? How can you influence? How can you make a difference? Is it globally? Are you going to pick a cause in Africa? Maybe. Is it in your community? Or is it in a separate community? Maybe it's researchers, maybe it's something else. Maybe. Or maybe it is the environment, saving the planet, making it green. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of causes. You need to do some research, and you need to start feeling the research, not just thinking about it. And there's a whole lot of things make a difference in influence. It can be from education to hunger side, to do your own research and come up with some solutions. Some of my projects are you see here, consumer packaged beverages, vitamins. And these are just, I have around 20 of them. And then I have my own causes that we worked on, my wife and myself work on, which are more what we want. And they are mostly in Mexico. But those are our own causes. These are causes that I have. Some of them I own with partners. Some of them I just work with, and they're owned by other individuals. They hired me to either product or help them sell it or vision. So everybody has projects. These are some of my own projects, my companies, my products, and products that I work with. Now, what are some of the famous social entrepreneurs? Well, yeah, these are very famous. These are probably the most famous. And what they do is truly, truly changing the world. They're donating a mass amount of money that they made with business, but also funding other smaller social entrepreneurs, funding technology, they're funding agriculture, they're funding consumer packaged goods, they're funding everything that you can imagine, education, everything to change the world. Now, in other videos, we're going to explore smaller case studies for smaller entrepreneurs, but these are the big ones. Remember, all of these here are small entrepreneurs that started when somebody woke up in the morning and wanted to change the world, building a product. You don't have to be here. Who are the other social entrepreneurs? A lot of people have told me that they thought all of the social entrepreneurs were very young, 18, 19, 20, maybe 21 or 22. That's not the case. A lot of people have told me, colleagues, clients, and been to be social entrepreneurs. Others think they're old and rich. Some think they're very young and visionary, and they have everything already, and they don't need to work for it, so they can focus on somebody else. That's a fallacy. The other fallacy is they're old rich people. They're not. It's quite opposite. The majority 6 to 48 years old. That's 35%. And the grand majority are 25 to 48 years old. This is particularly new, and more than 60% of them already have revenue of more than $1.1 million, even though social entrepreneurs are new. That's a lot for startups. That's a lot. Why are they so successful where in other industries and other types of entrepreneurs fail so often? We don't know yet. We have to do more research. My gut tells me it's because they have a larger vision and they think they're part of something greater than just making money. That's why they're successful. When you wake up in the morning and say, my purpose is to make a buck, you have a mindset. When you want to say, my purpose is to make a difference, your passion, your energy is entirely different. This is why I think these people are so successful. A lot of the causes are in the US and in Africa. And you can see the statistics here to the left. So this is important because this is the peak for somebody in business. So this shows you that a lot of people at their peak are choosing to be entrepreneurs. That means they're not rich yet. That means they're still working with startups. And that means they're X generation, like myself. You guessed it, they're geeks. Or most of them are. You want to be a social entrepreneur. You want to start. Maybe you have a product. Maybe you don't have a product. Maybe you have a service. Maybe you already have a business. As in your business, in the social part, you need to find a problem. Same with the business. You need to solve. Same with entrepreneurship. With your social enterprise, you need to solve a problem. Pick a problem, study different problems. Take the approach you would take with a business. Remember, you're not a nonprofit, you're a business. And this is why this enterprise will benefit, because you are thinking like an entrepreneur, not necessarily a nonprofit. Because the drive is different, because the funds are different, because the production, what you need to show, you're not going to get a donation tomorrow to make payroll. You have to go up and solve the problem, sell some product, get money in the bank, and then you'll have enough for payroll. It's a different attitude. What tools are you going to use for your business and to solve the social issue or problem? Is it going to be technology? Is it going to be manpower? Is it going to be a consumer packaged good? And are you going money? When you get a sale of a product, will you donate 5%, 10%? Will the products be made in Africa, and that's part of your social enterprise? That's the manpower part. You need to decide what's social about it. It can be your manufacturing, the place it is, or who you employ. It can be the type of technology, not just software or internet, but a new type of technology for manufacturing or for fuel or for something else. Or you're fresh out of ideas and you're going to donate 5% or 10% to charity. That can be a tool as well. Remember, these tools are also part of your unique selling proposition, and you will use them as an entrepreneur. That means you will use them as marketing, as leverage to grow your business, to sell more products, to solve more problems. What about a nonprofit? Well, what about it? I love nonprofits. I'm starting my own nonprofit. I think they're great, but they're different. How about if we put one against the other? What are the differences? Why one and why the other? We talked about it briefly. There are some limitations you have. You're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs want to make money. They want to hire people that are the smartest, and they want to make money. Salary is a big issue in nonprofits. You cannot pay yourself market, in other words. Even if you are the best, even if you are the founder, you cannot yourself market. It is not seen very well if you pay yourself a lot of money. Otherwise, people say, well, aren't you supposed to be a nonprofit? How come you're making all this profit yourself? When you're a social entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. So nobody can tell you what to pay yourself. Funding. Here, the nonprofit could have an advantage because they can get something for nothing. They can just give you money, and you don't have to give them a good for it. You do have to prove where you're using your money, and there are a lot of limitations on use of funds. Next one. There's a lot of limitations on use of funds. People donating money to a nonprofit want that money to be used directly. In other words, you raise $1 million, you better give away close to that $1 million, minus, let's say, 5%, which is accepted for operations. Well, I don't know about you, but $50,000 for operations is, so that becomes difficult now. You can get, and venture capital can be used as use of funds for investment. It can be used for technology. It can be used to hire employees, which is a big one, because in whatever venture you're involved, you want the best. You want to hire people smarter than yourself, and you want to hire people that will make a difference in your organization. If you don't have the money to pay them, it is difficult. And it is easier to pay them, easier to hire the best with your social enterprise than with a nonprofit. And of course, if you're a social entrepreneur, you need to invest in sales, even of your organization, not just your products or your costs. In a nonprofit, you cannot. Maybe you can do some advertising, not a lot, but it has to be to raise funds, not just awareness. So the limitations are huge there as well. But remember, you're not here to compete with a nonprofit. You're here to take the best from both worlds. So it's not a versus thing here. It's a one plus the other. So what you want to do is you want to add one to the other. You want to add the purpose, the vision, the cause, the change the world idea to the economy, to the business, to the enterprise. That's what we want to do in reality. So it's not a competition. It was just an example. More than anything, you need to wake up to, and before you get out of bed, you need to ask yourself, what's my purpose? What do I want? After I make a buck, after I have enough money, or more than enough money, what am I going to do? Or even before you have enough money, what am I going to do? What is my purpose? That's the start. That's what I do every morning when I wake up, and I mean every morning. I invite you to do the same. Because your new goal, now that you know it, you can't ignore it. Your new goal is to create change, but not just any kind of change, accelerated, long-lasting change. And your tool is going to be your business. Thank you very much for joining me today. Your time is valuable, and I love it that you spent it with me. Now we will take your questions in chat. This was a shorter presentation. A lot of you have been with me for longer presentations. This is something really close to my heart, that I want to influence other entrepreneurs into becoming social entrepreneurs. And we will have other presentations, social enterprises, social entrepreneurs. We will have case studies. Starting next week, we'll have a case study on a social entrepreneur, a startup, see how he got funding, how he developed his product, how he's taking his product to market, and how he's making a difference in communities, and he's making a difference in ethnic communities with ethnic products. It's a different type of enterprise, and it is very interesting. You're going to love it. Again, I can take your questions now by chat on business, on social enterprises, on specific products, services, marketing. In future conferences, we will go over how to, more specifically, how to find your cost, how to leverage the cost into marketing as well. There's some statistics that I'll share with you in other presentations about how more people, more consumers now will choose the social product versus a non-social product. They want to make a difference not only as entrepreneurs, but they want to make a difference as consumers. So when they buy something, they want to make sure there's something behind it, and this can be done for anything from apparel to things you buy in the supermarket, things you buy in a convenience store. I haven't seen many, but there's a few companies with services, much in the U.S. as you see it in third world countries, but there's a lot of new companies coming up with services. There's a lot of companies in the energy sector already in third world countries, a lot of beverage enterprises, a lot of water, and I've worked with a few water companies that are now social enterprises where they, for example, they could be donating in their own community. It's one of the companies I work with. They donate in their own community, so it's micro. Where they sell the water is where they're donating. Another water company is building wells in third world countries for people that don't have access to water, for drinking water and for irrigation. So you will have access to all of that information, all of those case studies in the next presentations as well. Today is a slow day with questions. Usually by this time we have 20 questions. Again, if you have questions, ask them. This is the last chance. Well, not the last chance, because you know we'll be here next week, right? You're very welcome. Please join us next week also, because we're going to explore, and the week after we're going to start showing you how people are leveraging their social spirit into launching. Most of the examples that I will bring are consumer packaged goods. That's the business that I know the most, and that's the business that I will share with you. And when you're creating your product, you don't have to wait. Sometimes you do it even before. With some of the examples I'll show you, came from ideas of social enterprises. They didn't come to me and said, hey, I have a product, I want to become a social entrepreneur. It was the other way around. They woke up one day and said, I want to be a social entrepreneur. And they called me and said, what can we do? And we came up with products, with marketing, and with ways of giving back to the community. We have a few questions. The question is social media one of the main ways of marketing social entrepreneurs? Wanda, not necessarily. Social media is very tricky. And I hope to have soon a social media webinar on how it relates to consumer packaged goods. I don't think social media is the best way. I think it is one way because you can go viral, but I don't think it is a good way unless you have something that is not physical, like technology maybe. But if you have a product, it is very difficult, no matter what product it is, especially if you have a larger consumer packaged good like a beverage. It is very difficult to leverage social media because you don't have the distribution. And social media is done mostly, you can't stop it. It's international, national at least, not just regional. Let me give you an example. Imagine that you have a water and you have a great cost for this water. Everybody likes what you're doing with the water, but they have to buy the water. You are using social media, your friends like it, and they start liking you, they start talking about it, so other people start talking about it, other people start liking you on Facebook. You haven't donated a nickel yet. Until that person goes to the store, buys the product, pays for it, it doesn't mean anything. Social entrepreneurs and non-social entrepreneurs, it doesn't mean anything. You have to get the people to buy the product if you're a social entrepreneur. I rely more on this type of media for awareness, and then get their phone number, get their email, get them to participate, get them to subscribe to a blog, to an email newsletter, so you can influence them. Once they are educated, or once you influence them, then they can become part of the solution, either by procuring your product or by educating, mentoring others, and starting the process all over again. It is very difficult to leverage social media into any type of sales in consumer packaged goods. It is one of the tools, not the major tool. It is maybe top 10. Another question here? Yes, you can ask a question about distribution, absolutely. The supermarkets respond to social water and other similar goods. They respond great. They love it. They buy the products, and they try to get involved with social entrepreneurs. Some of them even buy the company. So yes, I would say that you have an advantage if you go to a category buyer with a product versus a non-social product. Automatically you have an advantage. If that person woke up one day and said, what is my purpose? Then you have a huge advantage. But even if that's not the case, you already have an advantage. Because your best-selling proposition, it's not just the product itself, but it is human. It is the community. And that's a built-in unique selling proposition no matter what you're selling. So absolutely, you have an advantage there, and you will be accepted. What is the best way to generate funds for your project? There are many ways. The best way is friends and family. Not necessarily the easiest, but that's the best way. And I say best because it is the easiest legally, and it is the easiest in effort because you already know these people. If that's out of the question, if people that you know or people that they don't, that they know is not the option, then you have private equity, which means either professional or non-professional investors. Venture capital angel investors is one option. There are social entrepreneur sites that only fund social entrepreneurs, and you have less competition there than if you go pitch your product to a regular angel investor. So maybe you have 100 competitors in another space versus 10 in this space. Not everybody is a social entrepreneur. They don't need. They should even do it just if they're just an entrepreneur, just forgetting that marketing and forgetting that unique selling proposition, and to be ahead of the curve and to have less competition. They should be social entrepreneurs, even if it's not for the cost itself. They should be social entrepreneurs. It pays to be a social entrepreneur. You can also get people who are not institutional investors. There's some regulations there. You need to consult with an attorney. There's some regulations there who you can and who you cannot approach for that. I have a group called Venture Capital Group on LinkedIn. You can join linkedin.com and look for me, Jorge Olson, or look for my group. I have 10 groups there. One of them is called Venture Capital Private Equity. And I have more than 13,000 people there, including a lot of investors, some of them angels, some of them just regular investors, some of them institutional investors. That's a good place to start because you have a lot of people there. You can get free. You can just go there, put your link. You will need a business plan. You will need an idea that's mature, or even the proof of concept with the product already made. If you're going with a business plan, it's more difficult. If you're going with a product that's already done, it is easier. What I see the most is entrepreneurs that get a little bit of money, savings, friends and family, small investor, somebody, they get a little bit of money, they produce an executive summary, business plan, and proof of concept. In other words, something you can touch, a sample of their product. Then they go and they try to get funding with that. Once people can touch it, it's better for you, it's better for them, it's better for the company, you'll get a higher valuation, etc. That's for startup. Okay. You're very welcome. And remember, there's many phases to startups. There's many phases to and rounds to funding. Large companies that exited for $4 billion got funding the same year. A lot of people just want to create a company, own it 100%, never get funding. That's fine. A lot of companies want to grow. A lot of entrepreneurs want to grow exponentially. To grow exponentially, it is easier to do it with funds. If you're a social entrepreneur, search for social investors. Appeal to investors' sense of social duty. Many of these investors already donate to nonprofits. This way, show them how you will multiply that investment. So if they donate $100,000, you will take that $100,000 and donate $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 over the next few years, multiplying their charity work. That's one of the things that you also get to your investors. You get multiplication of investment into charities. You can take the money, be a successful entrepreneur, and donate 10, 20, 30, hopefully 100 times what they would have donated to charity. And now a bigger solution with the same amount of money. How do you measure success in this area? That's a very good question, because in the nonprofit, that's one of the things people complain the most, that it is very difficult to measure success. Remember, this is an enterprise. It's social, but it's still a business. You measure success in dollars and cents. You have to act as an entrepreneur. You have to act as a business person and see this as a business. If you fail, your cause will fail. So you cannot fail. You have to measure this in dollars and cents. Now, if it relates to the cost, even if you are donating a little bit, but you're in business forever, it's still better, because the success ratio is huge, because you're continually making a difference in one person, two people, 5, 10, 100. But the ultimate success is dollars and cents. If you want to give away all of the money, that's up to you, but you still measure it in dollars and cents. The next question, is it measured in self-approval or profit success? They're two completely different things. You have to have profit success to stay in business and to continue to upgrade your business. We talked about before about validation. That's external validation. At the moment you start, you will have internal validation. It doesn't matter if you're donating $1 million or $1 billion. You're waking up in the morning, you're doing something that's changing the world. You will have that the first morning, not if you donate $1 billion or $100. You are working every day towards a better world. That's the validation. That's the goal. Maybe you donate $100, maybe 100,000, maybe 100 million. Maybe it's not going to be you. Maybe it's going to be the CEO that you hire in 10 years. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're waking up and you're doing it every day. That's making a difference in one person's life, at least one person's life. That's your life. And you have to start somewhere. Amir, you can participate in all of our webinars because they're free and they're at least once per week. Sometimes if I'm traveling, I may not be here. Somebody else will be here in the webinar. I'm traveling for 2 weeks to Tibet in June of this year, so I won't be here, but somebody will handle the webinar. The next webinar will be on Thursday. 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, same place. You can join us for that webinar, and that will be a case study on a product, a consumer packaged good, some beverage, how they started from scratch, from zero with an idea, how they turned into social entrepreneurs, and what they're doing to, what they did to create the product, to develop the product, and what they're doing now to raise more capital, to get it into stores, and to be social entrepreneurs. That's coming up next Thursday, but every Thursday you can find us here. All that's missing is you. So hopefully you'll join us next week. Let me make sure I didn't miss questions because sometimes I skip one. Let me see here. And again, you always know, some people are new to the webinar. Some people have been to several webinars. I stopped for a while, but I've been doing webinars for about 5 or 6 years. If you're interested in consumer packaged goods, you should read Build Your Beverage Empire. I wrote the book. It goes from zero to the shelf, from idea, from everything that you need to do and know to create a beverage. If you want to create a social enterprise, I wrote another book for you called The Unselfish Guide to Self-Promotion. And you can see from the title what it's about, The Unselfish Guide to Self-Promotion. And it's not only about business, it is also how to promote yourself. Because remember something, before you can promote a product, before you can promote a business, before you can pitch, before you can get funding, before you can approach somebody and tell them or ask them to change, you need to know how to create change. You need to know how to influence. And to influence, you have to promote yourself so that people can listen to you. And this is a guide to influence. Don't think of it, it's not a typical self-promotion, look at me book. This is a way, learning a way to influence others for good. Starting with yourself, then your family, then people in your circles, friends, colleagues, then business, church, other associations, and hopefully some tools there, like books, webinars, and other things that can help you have greater influence. I cover the philosophy of unselfish self-promotion, but also usable tools. You can find it on Amazon or your bookstore, The Unselfish Guide to Self-Promotion. People are asking me, so let me write it down. There you go. It also has tools, how to use those tools for influence, how to use those tools for business. For example, I have blogs, newsletters, etc. I have more than 40,000 followers on my blogs. I have more than 20,000 subscribers to my newsletters. I have more than 30,000 connections, direct connections on LinkedIn, and another 100,000 through my groups. So what's that, 200,000? So that's an influence. And those tools I show you, and I can use that influence for business. I can use it for social enterprises. Now that's a tool. Those are tools that have a learning curve, and you'll take some time to use them. But you can create change immediately, and then those tools will help you create more change and reach more people. But the change you can start creating immediately. You don't have to wait until you have 100,000 subscribers to something. You can do it now. Yes, you can go to my private website if you have questions, which is jorgeolson.com. And there you can find out about upcoming events or contact me. My phone number is there. You can send me an email through Contact Us. You click on Contact Us. You can send me more questions. And remember, I have a team of people helping me. I have project managers, I have sales managers, I have branding directors. So it doesn't just have to be for me. Maybe your question is about branding. Maybe your question is about sales. Maybe your question is about distribution. And we'll make sure the right person in the team answers your question. You can call the office and schedule a private call if your matter is private. You don't want to ask the question here. After each webinar, we get at least 10 calls, people that do not want to ask your question. Maybe it's about funding. We have some investors also in all of our webinars that are looking for investment, and they don't want to give their name and get 100 calls. So they call us and schedule something with us, and then we find one of the companies that we work with so they can invest in that particular company. So if you have something that you need, just call the office, and you can find the number here in this jorgeolson.com is my private website, and all of the events are there. Speaking engagements, I have several speaking engagements. I'm going to be in New York speaking with Steve Forbes in June. I'm going to be at a TEDx event and other events. Keynotes usually in the U.S. and in Mexico are my keynotes. What are those names again? Ooh, which names? Sorry, Garrison, I'm not sure which names or how old is that question. Was that part of the webinar or part of the tools? Or let me know what you need. Sorry about that. You're very welcome. Okay, let me see, I'm reading through your questions. Will you ever be using books as a teaching tool for webinars? Yes, that's actually something that I've done for the last years. A lot of the concepts that I teach are in my books, and a lot of the books that I'm writing are in my webinars. I'm writing another book on beverages right now, and a lot of the concepts that are around branding are in my webinars. I did a webinar about unique selling proposition. It was terrific. The audience was more than 100 people. It was great, and that's part of the book that I'm writing on branding. I'm writing another book on with Rob. He was here the last webinar, and two from before last year, I believe. I'm writing a book with him about taking your brand internationally. He works for 5 Hour Energy. I'm writing another book with him, another book about exporting to Mexico. So I often talk about those topics in the webinars because I'm writing about them every day. So they're very fresh, and I have them in the top of my mind. I can answer questions. I have all the research, or I have the expert next to me on the webinar, because usually if I co-write a book, it's with somebody who is the expert in that particular industry, and they can answer whatever question, simple or complex, you might have for them. Amir, in London, I'm not sure when I will be in London. Let me see. I will be in Tibet. I do have a scheduled trip to Europe. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it to London, but you know, I lived in Europe, but I never went to London. So I would love to visit London. I was mostly in Germany, France, and Spain. I also worked in Holland and Belgium for a while, but I missed London, and I hear a lot of good things about it, so I hope I can visit. And if I do, I'll certainly give you a call if you don't mind, and we can go for a beer. I hear you guys drink beer. The books, okay, the name of the books. One book is The Unselfish Guide to Self-Promotion. That's the name. And the other book is Build Your Beverage Empire. Those are already out. You can buy them in your bookstore. You can buy them at Amazon. At Amazon, I can more or less control the price. So they're the lowest price that you're going to get them. I even changed the Kindle price to the lowest Amazon would allow me, which is $2.99. They wouldn't allow me to go any cheaper than that. The beverage book has been a bestseller in Amazon since it came out under 3 different categories with absolutely no promotion. It is a useful book. And again, it's for Kindle $2.99. These books are not written to make money. They're written as part of being a social entrepreneur and empowering you to be a social entrepreneur. Again, a lot of webinars, a lot of videos, all are free, all to empower you so that you can empower as well. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Or for the books, just write my name or ask for it by name, Jorge Olson. You don't have to pronounce it the same way. If you go to the bookstore, they'll do a search. If you go to Amazon, just type it on the search, type my name on the search, and my books will come out. We're going to start uploading sections of the new books probably in the next quarter so that you can start downloading, hopefully for free from Amazon, chapters. I don't know if they will allow me, but if they do, I'll put them there for free or a penny. Sometimes they allow you to do it for a penny for a limited time so that you can start getting all of the early bird content from the other books that I'm writing. My goal is at least two new books this year. Marianne, you're very welcome. Everybody, you're very welcome. Again, if you think of another question, email it to me. Go to jorgeolson.com. Go to my other websites. A lot of you already subscribe to the other websites and blogs that I have about consumer packaged goods, about beverages, or simply to my blog. You can find in any other websites information about up and coming webinars, events, speaking engagements, free content, articles, etc. I always post it. I post it on my groups on LinkedIn. I post it on Twitter. I post it on Facebook so that you're not going to miss it. Especially if it's free, we go ballistics and trying to let you know that we have something. Maybe it's an interview. We give a lot of interviews as well with entrepreneurs. So if it's an interview, we'll let you know. See if you want to join us for an interview with a particular entrepreneur. Our entrepreneurs or executives are sometimes big-time executives of big-time companies. A lot of times they're startups. A lot of times they're startups that are now success stories. I love success stories. Hopefully you do too, and you can join us for some of them as well. Thank you again, everybody. Everybody stayed for the questions. That's great. Everybody benefits always from the wonderful questions that you ask. Always ask your questions. Never leave without asking your questions because they're not just for you. Remember, by asking questions, you're actually helping all of the other listeners. Maybe they have the question. Maybe they didn't think about the question. It'll help them. It'll help them in their enterprise, in their business, in their life. Once again, I know your time is valuable, and I always feel so much better that you spend it with me. It makes me feel special. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week.